All right, here we are back again. Another exciting episode. We have we have one news story tonight, and it's such a minor thing that if I hadn't talked about it, I don't think we would be missing anything. But I put it on there just in case. Just in case. Oh, well, you never know. And then for WIBE, we got a bunch. We got 3 movies, kind of. I guess it's 2 movies and a play, Proshot, however you want to classify it. So we got all that. We got a Superman, and then anything else I can think of. But it's mostly just going to be that. So we're going to do all that. And yeah. But before we get into any of that, we do actually have one other thing. And that is, hey, guess what? It's the beginning of the month. You know what that means? New Pokemon card set. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Let me pull it up. Oops, I almost opened Balatro. Okay, I think if we hit this one, yep, there we go. Pocket TCG. I can't even remember what the name of this new set is called. Ruler of the Skies. So yeah, we got the new set, Ruler of the Skies. It's a Mega Rayquaza set. I want to say this is, because I think this set is both in the cards, like the physical cards, but also in the Pocket Edition. So like they're doing just a bit of work. Worldwide 1 team. Oh yeah, I heard that was going on. Haven't been watching it, don't. I got no interest. Alright, let's open some packs, shall we? So the last set, the Everyday Happiness or whatever it was called, the only card I'm missing is Zoroark. I, for the life of me, could not get Zoroark. And I tried to Wonder Pull it like 10 times and got nothing. I didn't really see any sparkles in that either. Yep, I remember doing that when I was younger. Or helping people move. God, I had to help my aunts and uncles move so many times. And I never moved once. Pheasant. So this set just came out, so I haven't actually gotten too much from it. Hey, Swanna! I don't care for Swanna. The big problem is that it was in Gen 5, and then it like wasn't in another game until Scarlet and Violet. And so I kind of forget Swanna exists. Oh, I like Heliotile. I have very fond memories of Heliotile. Specifically in Gen 6. That parabolic charge. Oh, fairy. That's like the 3rd Poltergeist. Hey, it's Rayquaza. Oh, it's Gulpin. I actually have way back in the day. I'm talking, I don't know, I must have been in middle school. We did like, it was like basically sock puppets. And for my sock puppet, I did Gulpin. I probably still have it somewheres. I couldn't tell you where, but I can almost guarantee I have it sitting around somewheres. It's just one of those things, like a snake skin. You don't know where you're going to put it. It's probably at my parents' house somewheres. Okay, we got a few new things. Nothing too spectacular, but hey, I'll take it. This is one of the big sets where even though it's only 1 pack, it's got, I think, 150 cards in it. Yeah, 155. That's a lot of cards. If I get lucky, I'll get to 130. I think that was the last big set like this. We got a lot of movies. I got like 3 movies to talk about today. The new Spider-Man and a few other things. Okay, got a few things done. All right, let's do another 10, because why not? I got the hourglasses. Okay. Ooh, that was at least 3 sparkles. That's nice. Girder. I like Girder. I don't love Girder, like the whole Girder Conkeldor line. I don't love them, but I do like them. I have a soft spot for them. The Boulder line is better. It still breaks my heart that Galarian Rapidash wasn't a Pegasus. Or like they didn't give it a 3rd evolution that turned it into an Alicorn or something like that. Such wasted potential. Do we even have a Pegasus Pokemon? We've got a Unicorn. We technically got 2. Maybe even more, if you count Keldeo. Oh, look at that. I actually have a shiny Blacephalon. The 2nd ever max raid den I did in Sword and Shield was a shiny Blacephalon. Like the DLC had just come out and I got one extremely early on. It's one of the few shiny legendaries I actually have. We got to start shiny hunting in Scarlet and Violet again. They're doing some They're doing some shiny events, not shiny events. They're just doing some special events in Scarlet and Violet again for the first time in like a year. We got to start shiny hunting. But of course, we got to beat King of Cards before we do that. That Kyogre card looks amazing. Kyogre is so cool. You know who's not cool? Broxish. Ugh. I did not realize people hated Obstagoon. I found out the other day, people do not like Obstagoon. I liked it. I used one in our Sword and Shield playthrough, and while it wasn't great, it did okay. I think that was Diabolo. Yeah. But yeah, people, I guess, just don't like Obstagoon. Oh, look at that. I like Oricorio. Never used one before, but I like the idea. I know there's one Oricorio card that's like super OP if you can like combo it correctly. Type Null's pretty cool. All right, final pack magic. You hear McDonald's doing a one-piece SpongeBob? I have not heard about that. That is a weird collab. I mean, McDonald's doing a one-piece collab would make sense, but SpongeBob? Huh, how strange. All right, so we did get half of the set. The problem is just getting the other half. Because especially, we only have like 3 of the EX cards. Swanna, Rotom, and Hoopa. And that's it. That's all I got so far. Getting those last 3, or getting the other ones, because I know Rayquaza's one. What was the other one I saw in the Wonder Trade? I don't remember. I thought I saw something else in the Wonder Trade. It's not official, but there are leaks. Huh. I mean, if they were just doing a separate SpongeBob One Piece collaboration, I think that would be fine. But the fact that McDonald's is involved, that's what I think makes it weird. I mean, we're literally getting a One Piece cooking game sometime later this month. And I've actually heard it looks pretty good. Eradicate. gonna have to remember it. In my notes, I couldn't remember what the name of the pack was. So I just I wrote down Burning the Sky. Because I was like, I know that's not right, but I don't remember what it actually was called. Okay, nothing there. An okay set. Yeah, it broke my heart that I didn't finish the last set. I'm one card away. Zoroark. And no matter how many times I tried to Wonder Pick it, I just couldn't get it. And I Wonder Picked it like 10 times. Other than that, I almost finished that. And I'm halfway through Ruler of the Sky. Finished Paradox Drive, and so on and so forth. Yeah. I literally just do this for something to do. You know, collecting is half the fun. At least for me. I don't play with these cards. I don't do anything with them. But I just find collecting fun. And it's better than getting like a gambling addiction. Or whatever the hell people are doing with those casino games. All right. Okay, so let me boot up the Switch. So yeah, we're continuing on with Shovel Knight today. I doubt we're gonna beat King of Cards. If we get lucky, maybe we'll do the next gym, you know, or the next boss, whatever it's called. But I kind of doubt we'll get that lucky because there's just still so much more to do. That's the thing. Is we got to beat another house of cards. We've got to beat the boss of the third world. And then after that, we have an entire other house of cards, plus the fourth world, the hardest boss in the series, and more. So I kind of doubt that we'll beat it tonight. Probably next week, though. If we're lucky. If we are lucky. All right, let me flip this over. And here we are. That's very loud. Yeah, it's very loud in here. Okay, that should be better, hopefully. So, where we left off, yeah, we're here in the world. We might as well just get this. I mean, we have the money for it after all. It's not like we're doing anything else. I'm still having mic issues, man. I don't know what it is about this mic that just causes it. You know, I got a replacement because the old one broke. And now the new one is having issues. And like, I try to Google solutions and I get nothing. I don't know if I'm doing it wrong. I don't know if it, and God, it's just, you watch videos of people doing like much worse than I do, and they've got none of those issues. So it's like, where the fuck did I go wrong to cause all these problems that nobody else had? It drives me crazy. So for gaming news, we have one story. Man, why am I doing the joust stuff? We're still gonna do it. God, why? Our one news story is, of course, Sony. You know, last we talked about Sony. They were ending physical discs, and that story continues because finally, after what, a month? I mean, literally, they announced it on July 1st, and now here we are on August 1st, and they finally responded yesterday at the end of the month. So that's our one story tonight. I'm sure other things happened in the game industry. I know Gamescom opening night live is coming up in the next like week or two. Sometime within the next month. But outside of a few leaks and rumors, we've really got nothing. So let's talk about Sony, shall we? So Sony finally, after a month with no response, just completely ignoring all the Twitter posts, because like after they did the original announcements, they went completely radio silent. Sony didn't say anything for about a week, and then they just went back to posting as if it never happened. And if you go on Sony's Twitter, pick any tweet in the past month, and it's just going to be filled with comments of bring back physical discs. Like, that's all people are talking about. That's all people want to know about is, you know, how are they going to bring back physical discs? And finally, they did respond, you know, after throwing multiple indie games under the proverbial bus, for lack of a better term. They did finally put out a statement, and the statement is basically that they're not going to undo any of these decisions. So I might as well just read it. This is just a blurb pulled by Wario64. And it's, we announced from January 2028 onward, we will no longer be manufacturing game discs. So we announced it 1.5 years ahead of time, shared via Sony interpreters. There are various reasons we made this decision. The biggest being that digitalization of content overall has been progressing. That's the big factor. It's not just for PlayStation, but for all content, digitalization is progressing. And so when we think about the future, we put a lot of thought and time, and we are cautiously considering this. And we came to this conclusion, and we're going to cautiously move forward. So yes, despite, you know, a month of Sony getting nothing but shit for their decision to end physical games, they have come to the conclusion that they're going to continue doing this. Now, they say digitalization has made many strides. That's all just gobbledygook. You know, that's techno jargon. What they mean by this is that Sony makes more money off of digital games than they do physical games. Like, you know, Sony said that, like, oh, well, 85% of people who buy video games buy digital. And, well, I think that number is a lot closer than some people would like to admit. It's not fully accurate. I will admit that number is not fully accurate. There's also, of course, that statement that the vast majority of gamers only buy like 2 games a year. And, you know, it's same thing with like movies. The vast majority of moviegoers only see like 4 movies in theaters a year. It's really not that many. And so I see when Sony is trying to justify it, someone could look at those 2 justifications and be like, okay, well, that's why they're doing it. When in fact, that's all bullshit. The real reason they're doing this is the bottom line. It's that when they sell a game physically, you both have to pay to manufacture a disc, but you also have to give a percentage of the money to the people selling the disc. Be that GameStop, Walmart, Amazon, you know, any number of people under the sun. Meanwhile, if you sell something on Sony's store, that money all goes directly into Sony's pocket. I mean, it's not even third-party games. Like, third-party games have, you know, a less lucrative split. But if you're cutting out the retailer, then that's more money that can go into Sony's pocket. It's like paradise. So if you've never been to Las Vegas, Nevada, there's Las Vegas, as we think of it, is not actually Las Vegas. Las Vegas is actually an unincorporated county territory called Paradise. You know, the Strip, all the casinos are in Paradise. And then the city of Las Vegas surrounds Paradise. And the reason they did this is so that way the casinos didn't have to pay city taxes and only have to pay county and state taxes. Basically, they created this whole unincorporated territory to avoid one level of taxes. And that's still how it works today. Despite, Las Vegas claiming to be Las Vegas, the vast majority, all the famous casinos and everything are in paradise, so they pay less taxes. Sony's ending physical games, so that way they pay less for the physical games. They don't have to share as much money with, manufacturers and distributors, and more of it can go directly back into their own pockets. It's all greed at the end of the day. And then as we're seeing, they get to control the narrative. Oh, well, you bought this game? Well, the game came out a few years ago. Your license ran out. Now we're just going to take it away from you. As we see, there was a story earlier this week about someone who bought BioShock Infinite back on the PS3. And they tried to boot up their PS3 earlier this week and were unable to. That the license for the PS3 edition had ran out. And so as a result, they're no longer able to play BioShock Infinite. It's the exact same shit. Yes, Sony's decision is bad. I know a lot of people are like, oh, from what it seems like, there was originally a rumor that Microsoft was going to do this, and now the rumor is that Microsoft isn't going to do this. I really don't think we know where they stand at the moment. Despite what people will say, we really don't have a good grasp on where Microsoft is. I could see it going either way. I could 100% see Microsoft not having discs on the Project Helix. But for the exact same reasons as well. They get to cut out that middleman, more money goes into their pocket on third-party and indie games. They have all the same motivation to do it. But this might also be an easy layup for them, because right now you have droves of people who are swearing they're not going to buy the PS6. Even though we should not be getting any new console next year, right now Xbox and PlayStation seem set on releasing the, 10th generation of hardware next year? I think that sounds right. Even though I barely feel like we've done anything with the PS5 and the Series X. And then there's also been this whole thing where, how Nickelodeon had a worldwide day of play, where it's oh, we're turning off, the broadcast to encourage you to go outside and play. Basically, PlayStation gamers are wanting to do something like that, where, hey, what if we do a worldwide week of don't play PlayStation? They're not calling it a boycott, I want to be clear, because traditionally, a boycott has never worked in the gaming industry. Despite what grifters will tell you, a boycott has never actually worked. So instead, I want to say sometime in August, they're going to be doing basically a worldwide, hey, don't play your PlayStation for this week, don't turn it on, don't buy any games from PlayStation. And I don't hate that idea. To be fair, I'm not going to be playing my PlayStation that week, but mainly because I don't think I've turned on my PlayStation once this year. We're already in August. We're 8 months into the year. I have had no reason to turn this thing on all year. Literally, the only time I will probably do that is in September when Wolverine comes out. Other than that, nope, I've had no reason to do it, and so I haven't. So yeah, sure, I might as well participate in whatever this worldwide day of don't play. Do I actually think it's going to work? Of course not. It's like the comic book protest that seemingly did actually potentially work out over in DC Comics. I don't know, I'm still kind of iffy on that. But, their heart was in the right place. Even if, it didn't end well. I see what they were going for, and I see what the PlayStation fanboys are going on here. The problem is, I don't think people will actually stick to it. My one thing, though, is if you do plan on getting Wolverine like I do, get it physically. Buy a physical disc of the Wolverine to show that, hey, guess what? I support physical games. That is the one thing I will say. we do not have to protest buying PlayStation games. You just have to protest buying digital PlayStation games. That's not that hard for me, because I already do that for the most part. What's the example? What's the example of doing something like this I've seen? Was it it's Ubisoft, where they were like, hey, don't protest buying Ubisoft games. Just don't buy new copies. Buy used copies of Ubisoft games. And that's like the South Park games. All the South Park games I got used. Yeah, that sounds right. But yeah, so Sony, they basically are saying they hear the feedback, but they don't actually plan on changing anything. And yeah, I mean, we should still keep putting their feet to the fire, you know, still keep leaving PlayStation notes. But it doesn't look like this is actually going to change anything, which does kind of suck. This does suck. This is just bad for the overall industry. Of course, Sony does have multiple monopoly cases against them right now, but who knows if that's going to result in anything. That might just all be a flash in the pans. Or flash in the pan? Whatever the saying is. I don't know, if we get nothing, I would not be surprised. Because, you know, again, the amount of money Sony could make potentially far outweighs the amount of people they might lose by stopping doing physical games. That's the thing. That's the calculation they're currently running. And to them, it outweighs it. Of course, you know, some people are like, oh, we gotta make the PS6 fail bigger than the Wii U did. And like, yeah, it's a good sentiment, but I don't think it's actually gonna work. Because at the end of the day, the vast majority of gamers don't actually care. Like, we can and ah all day, but we're internet personalities. This has never meant anything to us because we're on the internet. You know, we don't, for as much as people like to talk about how important we are or whatnot, how we represent the voice of gamers, I want to be clear, I've never said this. I know I'm in the minority. There are some who do believe that, and they just don't. They just clearly don't, and they don't realize it. Because the vast majority of gamers don't actually. So yeah, that's it. That's our one news story. Again, usually this time of year is dead. Usually nothing happens this time of year, and it's just this crazy, terrible, bad year in gaming and news that we're getting everything. But we've kind of slowed down, and we're not getting any good news until Gamescom opening night live, which is in a few weeks. Opening night live 2026. It's the end of the month. Okay, August 25th. So that'll be when news starts kicking up again. But hey, I'm not complaining. We got plenty of other things to talk about tonight. So bad right there. All right. So what have I been enjoying? Actually, a fair few things. You know, last week was such a weird show. I was expecting Marvel to come out and, you know, they were going to talk about whatever they had. Plus, we were probably going to get hints at the next X-Men movie. Maybe our first little glimpse at... I don't want to say we were going to get a glimpse at Secret Wars, but maybe like a hint at Secret Wars or something. Nah, we got nothing last week. It was all very small potatoes last week. And this week, we actually got some potential rumors for casting of the new X-Men movie. But again, I think it's all really just small potatoes at the end of the day. Compared to, you know, what else is potentially coming. But yeah, last week's show was just weird. I think it's fine. You know, you gotta have weird shows every once in a while. I really should use the cheat cards, but there's something about like principle, like I know I can do this, that makes me not want to use them. But yeah, whatever. So for our few things, we have the new adventures of My Adventures with Superman. We've got, I think, 3 episodes left. Oh, fuck it, okay. We got 3 episodes left in the season. I think this was episode 7. So I think we got 8, 9, and 10. And I don't know, I'm excited. We got previews for the next episode, so we'll talk more about that next week, but we got an episode this week, the X Games. And then I've seen a bunch of stuff in theaters, kind of. The first one is Hadestown. I went and saw the Proshot. It was in theaters 5 days only. I think that run has been extended, so if you want to go see that now, you still can, and I will highly recommend it, but we'll talk about that. I did watch the new Avatar movie. I know it leaked a while ago. I was kind of avoiding it, but also, you know, I want to support the official source, because Paramount and Viacom and Nickelodeon, they fucking hate Avatar. And so they try to screw it over every chance they get. So I will try to support the official release. If this had come out in theaters, I would have 100% seen it in theaters, but it didn't. Well, technically it came out in like the 2 theaters that it legally has to come out in to be eligible for an Oscar. But no, this did not come out in theaters, and it really should have. And then finally, I saw the new Spider-Man. I did see the new Spider-Man. We're going to talk about that. I'll give some non-spoiler thoughts. And then, of course, I'll give spoiler thoughts. Because I've got some spoiler thoughts. I liked it, but I think it's got issues. And we'll talk about some of those. So yeah, and there might be other things. These are just the things I'm thinking of. These are just the things I have written down. I didn't put Cheesecake on here. Maybe if I remember, we'll talk about Cheesecake at the end. Because it was National Cheesecake Day like 2 days ago. And I did have some cheesecake. And boy, was it. Alright, so our first episode, or our first thing was My Adventures with Superman. We got the episode, The X Games. So at the end of the last episode, all 4 of our main characters got pulled into a portal. And in this one, this is our swimsuit episode. They're in swimsuits, and we see that Mxyzptlk is getting divorced from his wife, Lispixia? Let's just call her, it's Mixie and Glitzy. Now, I do not know if this is a comics character. Glitz. I know Mxyzptlk is. He dates back to like the 50s. I do not know if Glitzy is from the comics though. I know she was in My Adventure, or the 90s Superman animated show, Glitzy. And there she looks like Jessica Rabbit. Like literally she's just a Jessica Rabbit. I don't know if she's, you know, anything to do with the comics at all, but she's a character I've always liked, mainly because I like the dynamic of short, funny guy contrasted against a tall, attractive woman. Obviously, Mixie is a short, funny guy. Glitzy is a tall, attractive woman. The trope gets its, you know, name from Jessica Rabbit and Roger Rabbit. You know, he's a short, funny guy. She's a tall, attractive woman. There are other examples, though. Oh, God. Can I think of any of them? What's another one? Pearl and Marina, I say, fall into this trope. That's one of the reasons I like Pearlina so much. Mario and Peach kind of fall into this trope. You know, he's short, Peach is taller than him. I wouldn't say Link and Zelda fall into this. Link isn't funny enough in most of his incarnations. Luigi and Daisy definitely are. What are some examples? I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, but it's a trope I do like. I think it is a very cute, very funny trope. And yeah, so seeing Glitzy here as she's getting divorced from Mitzias Pitalik is funny. And they're going up against alternate universe versions of our heroes. So we have a Lois Lane, who is the general. We've got a good Lex Luthor. We've got Scion Kara. And then we have Flamebird Jimmy, who is a superhero. You know, it's all fun and games. From there, they start the games, you know, because in Mixie's dimension, instead of getting a traditional divorce in a court, they play games. Whoever wins the game gets, you know, the house and the car and all that stuff. So their first game is simply just, not Fall Guys, Ultimate Chicken Horse. They just have to run across a bridge as the platforms give away beneath them. You know, it's crumbling bridge from Chicken Horse. And if they make it to the end, they win. Both teams tie, so it's just kind of like all's well that ends well. From there, game 2 is broken up between boys and girls. The girls have to climb a mountain. Meanwhile, the boys are looking for missing puzzle pieces. We see that the big plot with Lois and Kara in this one is them worrying about turning into the other versions of themselves. You know, General Lane is this hard Lois Lane who has seen the brutality of war after losing Clark. Meanwhile, Kara is, you know, the perfect scion of Krypton. And she represents the fears that Kara had at the beginning of the season when Brainiac was like, oh, you're just like me, you know, you'll turn out the exact same. This is the Kara who acts just like Brainiac. But yeah, as Lois talks to General Lane, the big difference is that in their world, Superman died. Other than that, they're basically the same. You know, she was in love. They thought everything was going to work out. And then because of something Lex Luthor did, Superman either lost his powers or something happened, and then Clark died. And now the rest of the squad, you know, must survive. Jimmy became a superhero, all that. Ultimately, in the girls' challenge, they all fail, except for Scion Kara, who makes it to the top. And then right before the other three are about to be eaten by a manticore, they get saved by Glitzy. She's like, okay, well, you know, Scion Kara won the challenge. I guess that's it. And then on the boys' challenge, this is where we find out, right, Lex made a mistake that killed Superman, and that after Superman's death, they were defenseless when the Hunger Dogs attacked. So what the fuck are the Hunger Dogs? Because I'll be honest, I had no idea. Eventually, you know, people who know better than I do came to the rescue. And the Hunger Dogs are basically a Jack Kirby Fourth World thing, where in the comics, you know, the Jack Kirby, Apocalypse, Doomsday, all that shit. In those comics, Jack Kirby wrote a story about the downfall of Apocalypse. And eventually Apocalypse was destroyed by the Hunger Dogs. Well, you know, they fought off against Darkseid and all that. What the fuck does this actually mean in these comics? Or in this show? I have no fucking idea. I have never read this comic. Literally all I know is what people explain on Twitter. Is this a weird as fuck reference? Yes. Yes, it is. But clearly they don't want to use Darkseid or anything like that. So instead they just picked this weird, obscure characters and just rolled with it. Because we found out from Comic-Con that the reason why we've been getting so many Wonder Woman villains in this show is because they want to save the Superman villains for Superman. You know, they want it, like, if we're gonna use a Superman villain in this show, they want that Superman villain to have multiple, you know, episodes. They want to do big arcs. Whereas if the show just needs a small one-off villain, well, why not take a villain from Wonder Woman or Flash or Batman? You know, it's just easier. So that's the reason why we have been getting so many Wonder Woman villains. Which, it makes sense, but I do really hope that at some point we do actually get a fucking Wonder Woman show. You know, that would be very nice. I kind of suspect that's not gonna happen anytime soon, because DC doesn't actually give a shit about Wonder Woman. Even though, you know, they claim she's the Trinity, they don't care. But I would love a Wonder Woman show, even if it apes from some of what this show is doing. Like, you can give Dr. Poison and Giganta better outfits. That's okay. I'd be more than willing to steal some from some of this show. But they're doing Green Lantern next, so whatever. But eventually, so in the Boys Challenge, they lose the challenge because they eventually get attacked by Hell Hippos. So Jimmy gives up the piece. Clark orders Jimmy to give up the piece because obviously he can't use his Superman powers to save them from the Hell Hippos. From there, they go to the maze of the One True Path. They get split up. Clark and Lois are on their own, and Jimmy is with Kara. From there, they're allowed to talk, you know. Well, first, with Clark and Lois, you know, Lois sees all the different Loises from the League of Lois Lanes. And eventually, you know, she freezes up. Literally, she gets frozen. Clark is the same way, that without his powers, he eventually freezes up. But Jimmy and Kara, meanwhile, you know, the last episode, Jimmy fumbled by saying like, oh, well, Kara, I didn't know that you had romantic feelings for me. Despite him saying in like her saying in the second episode of the season that she has romantic feelings for Jimmy. Okay, he fucked up in the last episode. So in this episode, while they're going through this cave of the One True Path, Jimmy just fully admits that, hey, I realize I fucked up. You deserve somebody better. So I'm going to be better. I'm going to be a better person for you. And that's what causes Kara to realize, hey, there is no one true path. You know, the whole One True Path thing is a lie. The One True Path is whatever we make. It can be anything. You know, it's not real. Which, good lesson, all that. But the whole thing of Jimmy saying that you deserve better, so I'm gonna be better. It's the whole thing we've been waiting on this whole season. Like, fucking finally, Jimmy. We don't know where this is gonna go from here. I hope it all works out. But who fucking knows? But I do hope it all works out. It's like, fuck, man. Jimmy Fumblebird needs to fumble less. But hey, this is not him fumbling, so I'll give it to him. So with that, they get the key, and so now they've got these 4 keys, and they get put into the Cosmic Anvil. And like throughout this entire game, Lois has been like, oh, something shady's going on here. And Lex also has been questioning things. So eventually Mixie's Pitalik reveals what's going on, that him and Glitzy are not getting a divorce, but instead it's date night. And so they're having fun on date night, doing a little bit of role play, you know, keep the marriage healthy. And as part of that role play, they created this whole scenario and they want the Cosmic Anvil. So there's this Cosmic Anvil, it's got the keys in it, and there's this guy draped atop it who has lightning going through. And the obvious question is, who the fuck is that guy? Who is the guy draped across the Cosmic Anvil? And the episode intentionally doesn't answer. Like, it multiple times characters ask, and they just kind of shrug it off like, whatever, you know, it's just a guy. Of course, you know, people with comics knowledge are like, it's probably the World Forger, who I only know of from, I think, Dark Knight's Metal. Or, yeah, Dark Knight's Metal is the World Forger. That sounds right anyways. So the World Forger, you know, uses the Cosmic Anvil to shape the different world. Usually he's like actively working. I have no idea why he's draped across the Cosmic Anvil in this episode. And clearly the writers don't care either. You know, it's just a means to an end in the episode itself. But I think it's a fine means to an end. And then Mixius Pitalik is like, oh, well, if you guys help us win, we can then use the Cosmic Anvil to bring your Clark Kent back, or to give Superman his powers back, or something like that. And this is where General Lane tells that, oh, the world didn't fall apart after Superman lost his powers. It only fell to ruin after Clark died. And also this is where Lex Luthor learns that Superman is Clark Kent. That even in the other universe where Superman and Clark died, he didn't know that Superman was Clark Kent. Which, that's funny. That's a good bit. And how everybody else knew it. But eventually Clark is like, do you trust me? They say yes. And with that, they run out, because this entire thing had been like timed. And Clark realizes like, hey, if we just wait out the clock, eventually Mixius won't be able to do anything. They run out the clock, they lose the game. Mixius and Glitzy can't access the Cosmic Anvil, and the World Forger tells them to fuck off. From there, Mixius throws a temper tantrum, and Glitzy's like, oh, I'm out of here. You know, you're embarrassing us in front of the mortals. And with that, Mixie sends them back to their world. And the next day, Clark and Lois, they're running through the park. And now Clark feels a lot better. You know, getting a little multiverse perspective has made him feel a lot better about his scenario. And as they're thinking about it, time portal opens, and out steps Jonathan Lane. And, oh god, what's the girl's name? I don't think it's Lana Lane, but it's something like that. So they have the two of them, and that's where the portal ends. And we know, we've got the preview from the next episode, that Jonathan doesn't remember the last time travel adventure. That because of when they sent him back in time, back in episode 6, I think? Maybe it was episode 5. They rewrote time, so now this new Jonathan doesn't remember anything that happened with Cyborg Superman. Back in episodes, 4 and 5. Which, yeah, that makes sense. You know, they basically created a new timeline. And that's where the episode ends. And yeah, I'm excited for the next one. Again, I think we're on episode... That was episode 7. I think we're doing 10 episodes a season. So I'm going to guess we have 3 more. The other thing we know is coming is the Eradicator. Because they really are setting up Reign of the Superman. I mean, the next episode is literally called Reign of the Superman. Which, Reign of the Superman was a comic event in the 90s. All built around, you know, hey, they've killed off Superman. So what does it mean to be a Superman? And that's where you get Cyborg, Connor, the Eradicator, and Steel, which are meant to comment on comics in the 90s, you know, in the same way that something like Kingdom Come was commenting on 90s comic books. Like, the death of Superman in the Reign of the Superman was very intentional afterwards. Like, they very clearly had a goal. They were always going to bring back Clark, but when they brought him back, they gave him a black outfit because, fuck, man, what you gonna do? So, you know, I'm curious to see what they're gonna do. It definitely, I'm still enjoying the season. I think this was a more lighthearted, fun episode before the next one, which is gonna be very serious. Presumably, like the little clips we've already gotten are already pretty, ooh. But so far, I'm having a good time. I'll be honest, I have no idea what I'm doing for half these puzzles. I'm just kind of throwing shit at the wall. Hey, we got Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight without his helmet. I will stand by that underneath his helmet, Shovel Knight has a fish head. I know the Yacht Club leaves it up to interpretation, but no, I will stand by. He's got a fish head. You cannot convince me otherwise. I bet we already talked about that because I think we saw Fish Head Shovel Knight in the original. All right, let's talk about Hadestown. So if you've never heard of or seen Hadestown, Hadestown is a musical originally, you know, off Broadway. Then it got like a full Broadway run in like, I want to say like 2019. And it's a musical that I remember first hearing through animated form. Someone did an animation to the song Way Down Hadestown. Miranda Clyde or something like that. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I really like this. And I think they even did it on like the off-Broadway version. And I was like, oh yeah, I really enjoy this. I can't wait to see the show one day. And I have actually seen Hadestown, the actual stage production. I saw it on tour, I don't know, a few years ago now, maybe like 2-3 years ago. It's been a while, but it hasn't been like super long ago. And so when they announced they were doing a pro shot of Hadestown, I was obviously interested. I had seen the show once, I liked it, and I was excited to see it again because I was like, you know, maybe I'll like it more the second time. And spoiler alert, I actually kind of did like it more the second time. I was really impressed with this pro shot. This is the kind of pro shot you dream of. It's, you know, I will stand by. I would much rather have, instead of musicals being turned into movies, I would much rather just have them release pro shots. The Hamilton pro shot was pretty good. This pro shot's pretty good. I know they're doing a pro shot of 6 later this month that I'm hoping is also pretty good. I know, you know, musicals turned into movies have been a mixed bag. Some are good, some aren't. You know, for every Cats, there's a Wicked. But this one, hey, I think, you know, if you get the people who worked on Wicked to do this, I'm sure they'll do fine. But I think just doing a pro shot of Hadestown, doing a pro shot of Hamilton, especially these musicals where they're entirely sung through. There is no dialogue. Everything that you need for the play is in the songs. I think that's fine. And so yeah, I do enjoy these pro shots, and I was very excited to see this, and it lived up to it. I had a really good time with this pro shot. It's a recording of the West End production from only like a year ago. It's like February of 2025. So it's not like a super old version, but it works really well. There's a lot of Shaw. The composition is really well done. Like, you'll get to see moments that, you know, you occasionally cut to the audience and whatnot, but also they're aware that, like, hey, you know what? We're going to show you different angles that you may not always see of the show. And that works surprisingly well. Like, someone was talking about on TikTok, like, oh, the big one is normally when Orpheus does something, you can't, you know, Persephone is off screen, but in the pro shot, you get to see her reaction. All the cast is really good. I know a lot, the one problem people have with this is Orpheus. I don't remember any of the people's names. I want to be very clear here. I'm not good with names. I didn't all of a sudden learn the names. I know the one problem people have is the guy who plays Orpheus. I thought he was fine. He's married to the woman who does Eurydice in real life. I think they have enough chemistry. I understand other people who have played Orpheus have done better, but I think they're fine in this. I think they have chemistry. I think they work off of each other really well. I already did that. I think I did anyways. Yeah, band. But yeah, Hadestown, fantastic. The person they have doing Persephone does a great job. I guess like after they filmed it, she was like, oh, well, you know, I knew we were filming it, but maybe I shouldn't have gone as far as I did. No, she brought the perfect amount of energy to this. You know, My Lady of the Underworld is one of the weaker songs in the musical, and she fucking kills it in this version. You know, I've seen people doing the jump. Yeah, of course they are. You know, it's a physical stim, as somebody put it. No wonder people are doing that. They love it. She makes that song work really well. The guy who plays Hades literally broke his leg like a week or two before they filmed this. And so they just put him in a boot. And sure, he's not moving around as much, but he's still doing a great job. His voice, the bass, oh my gosh. He does a great job at this. The person they have as Hermes is really good. What else? Who else? Oh, the Fates. All three of the Fates are so fucking good. Like, they do a great job at it. They've got that energy. Those moments where you need them to go all out. Oh boy, do they go all out. And they do a great job. And yeah, everything about this Pro Shot worked. It's, as far as I know, it's still in theaters. If you got a chance to see it, it's more than worth it to see it. I really enjoyed it. I hope it does eventually release to like digital and whatnot at some point in the future. Like, I do hope that does happen sooner or later. But it's still... ooh, is it good? And yeah, I'm really glad I saw it. It was more than worth it to see it. Did they just use Beatles? They used 4 Beatles. Oh my gosh. And that was the boss. Yeah, all the songs are so good. I'm not going to do a full analysis of Hadestown. Just go watch like Shay Frillis or somebody talk about it. But it's more than worth it. I definitely, one of the things I did pay more attention to on my, you know, this is my, let's call it second viewing, is the anti-capitalist themes. Like, I know it's there, but I definitely was paying more attention to those themes. Whereas, like, in my first go around, I was like, okay, well, what about the myth? You know, I cared about the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice. And they do a good job at that. Again, I'm sure the same shit you could levy against the Odyssey or Epic can be levied against this. But I don't think that matters at the end of the day. What matters is not how they adapt the story, but what they do with the story. And what they do with it here is really well done. And yeah, the anti-capitalist message is really good. It's very much layered in there. You know, Hades is the big boss. Everybody's just working for the sweat of their brows, and they're barely scraping by. They're tired, they're hungry. And yeah, Hades is, you know, king built on exploitation, and Orpheus has a chance to lead the people out of the underworld. And while yes, it is a tragedy, it's a sad song, and he fails to save the one he loves, he also fails to save the people. But that doesn't mean that next time, maybe, just maybe, the next time they sing the song, it'll be different. And the people will be able to get out, and they'll have their revolution, and it won't be a tragedy anymore. Maybe. Because there's always that little hope that, you know, just this once, it's gonna turn out different, even though it doesn't. God, I enjoy it. I like Epic 3 as well. I know I've seen discussion how people don't like Epic 3, that, you know, they spend the whole musical building up like, oh, he's trying to write this song that'll put the world back in tune. And people find Epic 3 disappointing. No, it's not. I think after everything that's happened to build up to Epic 3, sure, it's not like the best song ever, but it doesn't have to be. It's a love song written for the person he loves. It doesn't have to be the best song ever, because it sounds like the best song ever when you're singing it and dancing to it with the person you love. Like, this is basic shit, people. And I think Epic 3 more than lives up to it. So I enjoy it. I do thoroughly enjoy it. And yeah, that's Hadestown. More than worth your time. One of my favorite musicals. I don't know if it was, I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite. It's probably like I would say it's probably number 2. Yeah, I'd put it at number 2. I don't know, maybe it could be 1. Maybe. Alright, let's talk Avatar, shall we? So, the new Avatar movie came out officially. I know it leaked back in like April. We're not even going to talk about it. It happened. I don't feel bad for Paramount. Paramount can go fuck themselves. They should have put this movie out in theaters. Their original plan was to release it in October, and only because it leaked did they decide to release it now. But they 100% should have put this out in theaters. I would have gone to see this in theaters. The animation is fucking gorgeous. I would have loved to have seen this on the big screen. But Paramount just didn't care. Because here's the thing. Paramount, Viacom, Nickelodeon fucking hates Avatar. They have always hated Avatar. They have always resented its success. And at every corner have they tried to sabotage it. But it's only because of the quality of the product and the love of the fandom does it continue to go on. Because it is good. But Paramount wants it destroyed. And how they fucked over this movie, how they fucked over Korra, how they're gonna fuck over the new show. Well, I'm gonna talk about it all right now. I'm doing spoiler free right now, but we're gonna talk spoilers here in a few minutes. So just be aware of that. Because yeah, it is now officially out. But yeah, Paramount fucking hates Avatar, and it sucks that they're trying to sabotage it. And they're definitely gonna sabotage Seven Havens. Right now, the rumor is that Seven Havens is going to all be released on one day. The first 2 seasons, all 26 episodes, on the same day, which is gonna hurt the show more than it helps. That's how they're fucking it over, at least at the moment. We'll see how that continues, obviously, but for now, that does kind of suck. But we'll see. So, yeah, I would definitely, I got Paramount Plus just to see this, kind of. Because I want to support the creators. Technically, I already had it for that stupid... I got it preemptively, and that's why I watched that stupid Monster High movie a few weeks ago. It's just because I already had it, because, I had it for this. But no, I try to support the original creators when you can, especially on a movie like this that is beautiful, with some fantastic hand-drawn animation. Studios are trying to kill hand-drawn animation, and a movie like this is proof that hand-drawn animation still works outside of anime movies. Listen, Paramount is ass, but if we want stuff like this to keep existing, you do sadly have to give them at least a little bit of your money. Even if it's just to watch this one movie And then that's it. If we want stuff like this to keep happening, you do have to support the official release. Or else stuff like this is gonna die out. That's just the truth of it. Would I have much rather preferred to have seen this in theaters? Fuck yes. If they decide to do a theatrical release all of a sudden, would I go out and see it again in theaters? Even if I'm a little mixed on the movie? Yes. Yes, I would. Just out of principle. Because yeah, outside of like anime movies, this is the only 2D animation we've had in a while. I mean, there are, you know, companies that are keeping theoretical 2D animation alive, you know, that are using elements, but this is a 2D animated movie that's fucking beautiful. Oh my god. Just for the animation alone, this movie is fantastic. I can't say the best about everything else. I really do think that outside of the animation, a decent chunk of this movie actually doesn't work. And I did not always like Avatar. I've told this story before, but when I was younger, when Avatar was airing, I was not into the show. My brother was. And if you know anything about sibling rivalries, anything your brothers like, or your cousins or whatever, you don't like. Just kind of on principle. So because of that, I didn't like Avatar as a kid. And it was only much later in life, when I was in like high school, did I actually watch the show and realize like, oh wait, this is actually really good. Oh fuck. That didn't happen until much later on. So yeah, I have not always been a fan, but I am now. And this movie, I just don't think it lives up to it. Like, yes, the original show is so good that nothing can ever live up to it. That's been the eternal struggle of Korra for the past decade. But even just, you know, bringing the gang back together, you know, they're about 10 years older in this show, give or take. And it just doesn't hit the same. It's definitely a lot weaker. They do change the voice actors. It's all brand new voice actors that are meant to be more in line with, you know, the characters' races. Because in the original show, they just used a bunch of white people. And there's nothing in theory wrong with that. You know, I know ProZD gets a lot of shit for a comment he didn't actually say. At least not the way people interpret it. But I see what they were trying to do here. You know, we're gonna get a Japanese person to play Zuko. We're gonna get a Chinese woman to play Toph. I understand what they're doing there. You know, the Netflix show kind of has to do the same thing. I do wish, there is one point where I do wish they had used the original voice actors, even if it was just like a small tribute. That would have been nice, but no, they don't really do that outside of Aang himself in the opening. But yeah, the big problem with this is that yes, this is an Aang movie. It's all about Aang. It really doesn't give anybody anything else to do. Toph, Zuko, Sokka, Katara, they don't really do that much in this movie. I think Katara has the most to do, but nobody else really does. The writing isn't that good. Sokka especially. Sokka is fucking awful in this movie. And the original show, he's funny. Sokka's like genuinely funny. He's heartfelt. He's got some really good moments. Nope, not at all in this. He got one laugh out of me, and it was more slapstick humor than anything else. The new character, so the whole plot is that they find this airbender who has been trapped inside ice for thousands of years, you know, kind of like Aang was. And they potentially have a way to bring back the air nomads. And that's the basic plot. We get this new character, Taga, voiced by Dave Bautista, And he's great. Dave Bautista fits perfectly into this world. I think he does a good job. I've got some issues. We'll talk about them in the spoiler section. But I do like him as an addition. But I think he's the only character who actually fucking matters in this movie. Him and Aang, and that's kind of it. And that is just a shame on this movie, that they could have done more, and they just didn't. The whole movie is, of course, along the way in the adventure, we find out... What do I want? Let's talk about it in spoilers. The last thing I'll say is that the movie's filled with Easter eggs and references and whatnot. If, you know, you care about the Avatar universe, you're gonna have your fun little moments. Less focused on the Korra side, more on the Aang side. But I think that's fine. I think that's what people are here for. And overall, it works. The way I saw somebody put this on Twitter is that this Avatar movie is basically one of those non-canon anime movies. Because if you don't know anything about how anime movies work, most anime movies are not canon to the anime. Because most animes are adapting either light novels or mangas. And so for a movie, the movie usually isn't adapting either of those things. So they have to create an original story, and as a result, the movie tends not to be canon. You know, I think of the My Hero Academia movies, the Spy Family movie, every Pokemon movie. The Pokemon movies and the Pokemon TV shows exist in separate continuities, just for this exact purpose. This is one of those non-canon anime movies. Like, at the end of the movie, you could say, oh, well, nothing in here was actually canon. And it doesn't actually change the story, especially going into Korra and whatnot, at all. I mean, yes, you could still keep it canon. There are things that they have retconned from, like, the comics in this movie. But at the end of the day, yeah, you can treat this like one of those non-canon anime movies, and nothing really changes. With that all being said, if I had to give it like a score, I would definitely say it's like a 7 out of 10. And I would say that's me being generous. Like, the good animation does a lot of the heavy lifting, because the characters definitely don't. That's the thing, is that for all like the good the animation builds, the characters just don't. But I mean, I liked it well enough. But if someone was like, no, I hate this movie, all the changes they make are awful, I wouldn't blame them. I would not blame them. I could see how somebody would hate this movie. For me, it's like a 7. I wish I liked it more, but you know what? I'll take original 2D animation again. I'll support this, just at the chance of us getting something new. That's all I want. But with everything that's happened with this movie, after Seven Havens, I don't know. To be fair, I said the same thing after Korra. After Korra happened, I expected us never to get anything Avatar ever again, because of how much Viacom and Nickelodeon fucked over Korra. But no, we're getting a whole new show. We got a movie. So you never know. All right, for the spoiler section, I just kind of want to go over the movie, like, you know, what happens, certain moments, stuff like that. So the movie starts off strong enough. Again, beautiful animation. We see Aang at one of the air temples when he gets attacked by, I think they're called the Disdain. It's basically precursors to the Equalist from Korra. It's a group of non-benders who, you know, have been abused by the benders, or by, you know, the Fire Nation during the war. And they're after this staff, as we'll find out later on. And their whole thing is they go and they steal this map from Aang. In the process, they almost kill Aang, but Aang also saves one of the Stain, she almost dies. But they get away with the map, leaving Aang to wonder, like, oh, what do I do next? He goes to Republic City where he finds Katara. I'm surprised, you know, it makes sense for Katara to be there. I'm surprised Sokka's not also in Republic City. No, instead he's hanging out in the Southern Air Temple, or the Southern Water Tribe, you know, working on his inventions. But yeah, Katara's there, you know, they've just finished building Republic City Town Hall. And so Aang gets healed up by Katara after he's taken a beating. And he's like, okay, well, why did they want this statue of Sonam? I've got to figure it out. So he goes and he talks to his past avatars. He goes through a bunch of different past avatars, you know, some we've seen, some we haven't. Until he gets to eventually Avatar Jean? It's an avatar voiced by Kyo Kwan. Now, if you know me, I love a good bit of Kyo Kwan. He's fucking great. I'm loving him in his renaissance. And so yeah, him in this movie is just a little Easter egg thing. He has a single moment. He has a joke about how much he hates sandals. But he's the one who tells us about Sonam, that she was a previous avatar who created this staff, this powerful weapon, and that, you know, other avatars have looked for it but failed to find it. And Aang is like, oh, well, the Denied are going after it. I have to get it before they do. So he kind of points him in the right direction. It's not a major scene. It's literally just a cameo. But as cameos go, I think it's fine. It's a lot better than the other cameo we get in this movie, which, holy fuck, I'll talk about that. Oh my god. But so from there, they get, Aang goes off to go to this mountain. Meanwhile, Katara gets sent to gather the rest of Team Avatar. We find out Toph is, you know, her metal bending academy, still greatest earthbender in the world. Zuko is the Fire Lord. And we get one of the kind of funny jokes in the movie where Aang sends a message to Zuko that's like, what's up, flame bro? Bring some, you know, we're meeting up, bring some Fire Nation buns. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of funny. Sokka, meanwhile, is the unfunniest person alive, because he's showing off his new flying bicycle invention to a bunch of kids. And the kids, they don't care about it. And then he kind of does this little recap of like, oh, this, you know, I was better than Aang with the ladies. I was the heart and soul of the team, blah, blah, blah. JoJo's reference. And it's just not funny. Whether it's the new voice actor or the writing, I honestly think it could be both. But none of the Sokka stuff works for me. Sokka is not funny in this movie. Like, at all. He's fucking awful in this moment. Which, that sucks. Yeah, Sokka being bad in this movie fucking sucks. Because again, in the show, he's funny. Why isn't he not funny in this? But he's just not. From there, we see Aang climb the mountain, and it's, you know, this giant mountain goes above the cloud tops. I've seen some people say, well, oh, why does Aang rock climb it when he could just fly his way up? We see him try to airbend his way up, and he gets caught in the winds. So he has to, you know, use earthbending to rock climb it up. He's the fucking Avatar. He can use a bit of everything. I don't think this is like one of those complaints that's like very cinema sin. Like, no, it's fine the way he does it in the movie. But at the top, kind of like how he was frozen in ice, he finds someone frozen in ice. He uses the Avatar state to let them out. And it's not Sonam, but instead Sonam's disciple, Togga. And so after he releases Togga, the mountain starts to collapse. Aang tries to make his way down. Again, the animation of the mountain collapsing is fantastic. It's beautiful. And then he gets down right as the mountain's about to fall on him. Togga wakes up, and uses his airbending to save them. And with that, they're able to, Appa shows up, they're able to escape, get to safety. They take them back to like a base camp. From here, we kind of learn about Togga and that he used to work for Avatar Sonam, that the staff isn't a weapon, but instead was made with the help of the lion turtles. That, back during the day, this was right around the time that the Earth Kingdom first came into power. And so as a result, the airbenders were the peacekeepers of the age. So in order to expand the number of airbenders, Sonam met with the lion turtle and learned how to give people bending in order to create an army of peacekeeping airbending nomads. And Togga was the first person who was given airbending. And of course, during his conversation with the gang, we get some sus moments with him. He's originally scared of Toph because she's an earthbender. He doesn't trust Katara because she's just a water-bending lady. After he hears about what happened to the airbending people, he's like, why are you friends with Zuko? His people wiped out our people. Which, okay, the last one I get, but the other two definitely raise questions because it's very obvious from the beginning. Togga is a villain. He is the main antagonist of this movie. It's super obvious. I was trying to think what he reminded me of. It's Bismuth. He's Bismuth from Steven Universe. Someone who was trapped away for a long time. Then when they're eventually set free, they seem like an ally. Until they eventually reveal that they had a secret weapon that could potentially change the world. And instead of, using the weapon to change the world, they got locked away. And then after revealing that to the hero then, has to fight them and eventually defeats them. It's just Bismuth. I know this trope exists in other forms, but this is just the one I thought of. But yeah, so Togga tells Aang, like, hey, I know where Sonam's staff is. We can go get it and use it to bring back the airbenders. Which obviously Aang is interested in. He's the last airbender. Of course he's going to want to do this. So with that, they head out on a quest. Along the way, Togga teaches Aang some of these ancient earth airbending techniques, specifically how to fly. Not fly in like the traditional, this isn't like, is it Zahir? The villain from the third season of Korra. I think it's Zahir. Where, he makes his body lighter than air and can fly. No, they basically fly by flinging each other around using their airbending. And I actually kind of like that. I think the flying sequences are really well done. We found out Togga is able to navigate by like feeling the winds. And that's cool as well. Again, there's this whole aspect of this ancient airbending culture that has just been lost. Because, Aang is the last airbender. But from there, they get attacked by the Denied. They're able to stop them, but Togga almost destroys the airships. Again, just another indicator that he's, more than he seems, because he's willing to just crush them, and, Aang is a pacifist. But they make their way into the Immortal Storm. Now, the Immortal Storm is like the one sequence in this movie, I guess it's technically one of two, where everybody gets something to do. Because the ship gets hit by lightning and whatnot. So you have Toph trying to use metal bending to hold the ship together. Zuko is trying to relight the furnaces. Katara is parting the sea, so that way the ship doesn't crash. And then Sokka is steering the ship. Meanwhile, Aang and Togga are clearing out tornadoes in the Eternal Storm in order to open a path forward. I think the scene overall works pretty well. Again, it's the most any of the side characters have to do in this movie. I think Katara has the best moment. I will say, for all the shit I'm giving the side characters, I give less shit to Katara. I genuinely think Katara parting the sea is awesome. I think it's a really cool moment. just on spectacle alone. Like, welcome back, Prince of Egypt. That's fucking awesome. And she gets another good moment in a little bit, but again, people have their issues with Katara. Not that I'm denying any of it, I just had less issues than other people did. But they're eventually able to clear the storm. They make it to the islands, because they get to the eye of the Eternal Storm, and it's the Lion Turtles. This is the resting grounds of the Lion Turtles. At least, you know, we know there were 4, 1 for each element. 3 of the 4 Lion Turtles rest here. Presumably, you know, the other one is the one that Aang met. And this is just their skeletons, as they've, you know, their spirits have moved on to other places. And yeah, again, it's a great looking location. So from there, the group breaks off. Aang, you know, goes to connect with his spirits to find Sonem's staff. Meanwhile, Togga and the rest of the group are clearing the airship, so that way they can get back. And at first you expect like, oh, Togga's like, no, I have to go with Aang. But no, he actually agrees to stay behind. Of course, he doesn't actually stay behind. And it's after this that Katara confronts Togga. I'd say, again, I think while most of the side characters get nothing to do in this movie, Katara actually confronting Togga gives her something. And she's like, oh, well, I know what kind of airbender Aang is. But what kind of airbender are you? And this is where Togga's like, oh, you know, I've seen the horrors of war. We need somebody strong to bring back the airbenders. And your weakness. You and your friends are the weakness in Aang's life. So Togga fights them all and kills them. Now, we did get over the past few days a leak of what this scene originally looked like. And originally, it was much darker. We actually got to see Togga basically kill them all. There was blood. At some point, this movie probably had a PG-13 rating. But they toned it down for the kids. And yeah, the more violent scene definitely should have been there. I definitely, after watching the animatic, that's definitely what we should have done. And then, but yeah, meanwhile, Aang finds the staff. He's able to use, you know, his avatar connection to open up the gate. Gets it. Togga shows up, and he pulls a fucking Mogo? Not Mogo. Who's the living planet from Guardians of the Galaxy 2? Ego. He pulls an Mogo's the Green Lantern one. He pulls an Ego, and he reveals and Aang's like, oh yeah, we can rebuild the Earth Tribe together. And I killed your friends just to get rid of your weakness. Obviously, Aang pulls out the Avatar state, fights Togga, loses, and then dies. But because of all the spiritual water in the surrounding area, Katara is able to bring everybody back. So technically nobody dies. We also know from concept art that originally Katara was supposed to be pregnant in this movie. And I think this is why she's not pregnant anymore. Because, you know, everybody literally fucking dies in this movie. Yeah, no wonder they decided not to make her pregnant. Like, no shit. I don't think it matters too much at the end of the day, but with them all effectively dying and being brought back, I get why they didn't want to do that. So, Togga steals Appa, and then goes to the Denied and gives them airbending, and says they're gonna go, you know, destroy Republic City and bring upon a new airbending nation. With that, you know, everyone else is stuck. We get another very unfunny Sokka sequence, which is clearly a callback to the show, where he's supposed to be like recapping everything that's happened so far. And it just doesn't work, and it's just not funny in this movie. Like, it's supposed to be funny, and they just failed. Again, I blame the writers before I blame the voice actor. But it doesn't work. But eventually Aang's like, oh, I know a way to get back. We just need the help of an old friend, and it's the Ocean Spirit. So they get the Ocean Spirit. It opens a portal to the spirit world. Once they get to the spirit world, we have Aang and Sokka, who look like they did in the original show. Toph is a baby. And then Zuko and Katara are old. Which, there's a part of me that just kind of wishes they reused the designs from the original show and then brought back the original voice actors. Like, that would have been a funny little tongue-in-cheek reference. But nope, they don't do that. It's all the new voice actors. They do reuse, like, the Legend of Korra old Zuko and Katara designs. But outside of that, it's just, like, I get where they were going with this joke, that they're, you know, spiritually out of line. It just doesn't work as well as I think it should have. And then they meet fucking Gorilla Vark. So this is a spirit that was living in Sonam's temple, because in order to power up, Togga has to take Sonam's temple from the spirit world and bring it back into the material world. And so far, this Gorilla Vark has been living in the temple, in the spirit world. But now that Togga showed back up, he's been kicked out. This character is fucking awful. Like, why the fuck are they here? They do nothing, they add nothing. They're so fucking annoying. They're voiced by Taika Waititi, which, okay, this is our excuse for a celebrity cameo. But it just doesn't work. It's a quick, like, oh, you know, originally he wants to run away, but then Momo says something we don't hear, and all of a sudden he's agreed to help them. Like, again, the original show probably could have gotten something like this to work. They'd probably even do something like this at some point. But this movie just does not. Luckily, the scene's over quick, just not quick enough. And so as a result, oh my god, this scene is awful. I get what they were going for, it just doesn't work. It does not work. So from there, we get the big fight scene in Republic City as it's being destroyed, and the new airbenders are attacking it. The gang goes off to defend the city. You know, Katara fights that one girl from the Denied, who is like, she seems nicer than the others. So eventually she's, of course, the one to switch sides. Toph beats up a few, Zuko beats up a few. And then as it seems like they're all cornered, Sokka comes riding in on his Sokka cycle from Act 1, sets off some fireworks and some explosions. And it's like, oh, well, you know, we win in the end. Meanwhile, Aang fights Togga. Togga plugs the staff into the temple, and it gives him like a Ganondorf-style power-up. I praise the 2D animation in this movie. Togga's powered-up design does not work for me. I've seen a lot of people compare it to Vaatu from the second season of Korra, and that's not a bad comparison. But it just doesn't work. I think it looks ugly. And I was not impressed with the design. I really was not. Eventually, Aang steals the staff from Togga and powers up himself. And Aang's powered up design looks a little better. Again, it's also Rava Korra from the second season. But it looks better because it's more, you know, like Aang. But Aang slowly starts getting corrupted by the powers of the staff. And he starts, you know, trying to kill Togga. And Togga's like, kill me, do it. Because then it'll prove that you're strong enough to lead the new Air Empire. To avenge all those who died. Because they're very clearly trying to build a parallel between Aang and Togga. Because at one point, Aang talks to Avatar Sonam after he dies. And she's like, yeah, Togga, you know, I originally created the staff to, you know, spread peace through the kingdom. But when we were attacked by the Earthbenders, they were slaughtered, my Airbenders. And Togga was one of the only survivors. And that's what made him so brutal. That's, you know, he became a changed man. It's very clearly meant to draw a parallel between Aang and Togga. And I would simply put it down to the fact that both Aang and Togga saw the horrors of war. They looked into the void, but the difference is Togga blinked. And so as a result, he's become a monster. And Aang, right as he's about to become a monster, he sees this banner for the new Air Nation as it's being destroyed. That snaps him out of it, and obviously he destroys the staff. Again, this is a non-canon anime movie. Nothing we can do can matter, because Legend of Korra already goes in a different path with the Airbenders. And like, I have seen the take that this movie doesn't have stakes because it will all be undone by Korra, because we already know what happens afterwards. And yeah, fair point. I see that criticism. I don't think it's as big of a deal as, or at least I don't make a big deal out of it as others will. But I see where that criticism is coming from. But yeah, after he destroys the staff, all the people that the staff gave airbending to, they lose their airbending, as does Togga, but Togga also returns to the winds. And that is a good moment. Togga returning to the winds, as you know, with this ancient airbender proverb. I do like that moment. And yeah, that's kind of where the movie ends. They rebuild Republic City, they establish Air Temple Island, and then they have the new Air Acolytes. So, as was told to me, in the comics, the Air Acolytes were originally a bunch of fanboys who followed around the gang before eventually, you know, deciding to become the Air Acolytes. Whereas this kind of retcons it in the movie to be like, no, the Air Acolytes are more, you know, people who don't have bending in Republic City, but, you know, still want to contribute, still want to make a difference. I think it's a fine change. I think the one girl who was part of the Disdained joining the Air Acolytes makes a lot of sense. And with that, they head out, and then they find the baby bison. The sky bison aren't extinct. Because there's a earlier in the movie, Togga says something about how they're following the trails of the air bison. And so when they got to the center of the Eternal Storm and the lion turtle corpses, I thought that's where they were going to find the air bison. And that's how they were going to get out of the Eternal Storm. But no, instead they find them at the end of the movie. It's something in Korra that technically never needed an explanation. But now that they've given it an explanation, I don't think it matters that much. But it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's neat. And yeah, that's basically where the movie ends. I think it's whatever. Again, good animation goes a long way for me. At least I'm giving it more leniency here for some stupid reason. But I think there are big chunks of this movie that just don't work. The side characters get nothing to do. This really is just the Aang and Togga movie. A little bit of Katara, and even less of everybody else. It's not a terrible movie. Like, I've definitely seen far worse movies even this year. But it's hard to recapture the magic of the original Avatar. And this movie just didn't do it. It really didn't. I do hope Seven Havens is good. So far, we did get our first official trailer. I think it looks good. I think it looks interesting. It's just a question of, will it actually be able to live up to that? And so far, I just don't know. I just don't know. But I'm at least a little hopeful. I wanted to like this movie more than I did. Again, 7 out of 10 is not bad, but this is definitely a lower 7 out of 10. I wanted to like it more than I did. Alright, let's talk Spider-Man Brand New Day. I'm going to do spoiler-free thoughts first, and then we'll get into spoilers. Overall, I really liked this movie. I think they made a lot of good choices. There's very clearly a distinct vision in this movie. Destin Daniel Cretton had a vision for this movie. Like, whereas a lot of Marvel movies are very clearly put together in the edit, this one feels less so. Of course, if you told me it was put together in the edit, I sadly wouldn't be surprised. But I'd like to feel like they had more of a cohesive idea of what they were going to do. Not everything works, mind you. It's got some issues, some of which we'll talk about in spoilers. But overall, I did enjoy it. I think this is a great showcase for Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I think he does an excellent job. I think most of the cast does a fantastic job. Both new and returning characters. Overall, I was pretty impressed. I enjoyed it. I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. It's good, but it's got issues. But it is good. I think visually, I think the movie's pretty decent. Yes, there is CGI. It's Marvel, you know, it's modern day Marvel CGI. They're clearly working with VFX artists who had to do everything on a very tight budget with very limited time. But towards that end, I think they got a good amount out of it. There are a lot of visual shots that try to, like, you know, play around with the visuals. There's some distinct imagery in this movie. For, you know, what Marvel has been doing a lot recently, this is one of the better ones. I think all the action scenes are great. They really have a key eye for action in this movie. And we get some great set pieces, some good moments. It's not all perfect. I do have my issues, but overall, I think it works really well. Tom Holland is fantastic. Him as Peter Parker, this is really his Peter Parker movie to shine. They give him a lot to do. He's able to flex some of his acting, you know, and he's one of the better MCU actors. And so I think he does a good job in this. The rest of the cast is all pretty good. Some of them have more to do than others, but I think overall they all do a good job. I give a lot of credit to Sadie Sink. I think she does a really good job. Without going into any specifics on the character, who she is, what she's doing, I think she does a good job in this movie. I understand why she's going to be controversial to some people. Like, I get it. I do definitely get it. But I think her as an actress, she's doing a good job. And yeah, I'd recommend it. Again, right now, this is on track to have a bigger opening than Endgame. This new Spider-Man movie is going to be huge. Because despite all of my issues with Spider-Man comic books, the movies don't actually have those issues. And I feel like, well, yes, they have their own issues that I can bitch and moan about. At the end of the day, I feel like there's more of a purity to movie Spider-Man, whereas comic Spider-Man has just been bogged down by editorial for the past 20 years. That I fucking hate comic book Spider-Man. But movie Spider-Man? No, I'm rocking with movie Spider-Man. And yeah, I think this was a good movie. I enjoyed it. It's got some questions, but overall I think they do a good job, and I would recommend it. I would recommend it. If you have not been into the MCU in a while, like if you haven't seen anything since like No Way Home, or even since Endgame, definitely watch No Way Home first, and I guess Far From Home. But yeah, this one is mostly removed from the other MCU movies. The only movie you have to see this movie are the other 3 Tom Holland Spider-Mans. Which obviously each of those have their own like viewing requirements. But I really do think that if you just see Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. You'll understand this movie perfectly fine. If you want to do a little bit of extra reading, I would maybe recommend Thunderbolts. You don't have to, but Thunderbolts is also a pretty good movie, and yeah. And then even though The Punisher is in this movie and does play a pretty major role, I do not think you have to see the Netflix show. I don't think you have to see the Daredevil Netflix show. There are certain things they reference in this movie that have never happened in the movie. It's kind of like whenever Hawkeye and Black Widow talk, they always refer to, oh, remember that time in Budapest? We never actually see what Budapest was. Same thing here. Like, they refer to something that never actually happened in these movies. And that's fine. We don't need to see that. I'm perfectly fine not seeing that. You just need to know who the Punisher is. Hey, the Punisher, he had a wife and kids. They were killed, and that broke him, so he started murdering people. You know, he became judge, jury, and executioner. That's kind of all you need to know about the Punisher, more or less. Honestly, even that might not be, because again, the MCU has gone in some different-ish directions. Not too far off from that, but just a little different. And that's all you need to know. I don't think you need to see any other movies, just kind of the three Tom Holland Spider-Mans in your own. Yeah, I'd recommend it. It's a great movie. 8 out of 10 seems right. That's kind of where I'm sitting. And with that, we should talk about spoilers. So this movie is all about what it means to be Spider-Man. And mainly, what does it mean when Spider-Man gives up Peter Parker? I would say this movie is kind of like the second Sam Raimi movie in reverse. You know, in the second Sam Raimi movie, we see Tobey Maguire struggling with being Spider-Man. And as a result, his life is so out of balance that he ends up losing his powers. This is kind of the opposite. Peter has completely given up on his Peter life. He's been full-time Spider-Man for 4 years. The movie literally opens up with a montage of just like, hey, this is what I've been doing as Spider-Man for the past 4 years. Because this movie takes place in like 2028, 2029. Like, we're 4 years after No Way Home. You know, MJ and Ned have just graduated from MIT. They're back in New York. And yeah, Peter has basically completely neglected being Peter to just be full-time Spider-Man. He's working with the chief of police to do the dirty jobs they can't. I do not like how much of a cop Peter is in this movie. You know, if you ever played the Insomniac games, one of the criticisms of those games is how much Peter is a cop in them. And this movie has that same issue. Peter is very much a cop in this movie. At one point, he like throws, I think it's Scorpion, and he hits a cop car and almost kills a cop. And the cop is like, Peter, how dare you? Or, you know, it's Spider-Man, how dare you? You almost killed a cop. And that did not sit right with me. He's too much of a cop in this movie. Not, like, it helps that the villain is the government, but I don't like that. I don't like how much of a cop he is. I had the same thing with the game, and the game was worse, though. Yeah, during this opening montage, this is where we see Peter fight a bunch of these villains. We see him fight Scorpion, Tombstone, Boomerang. I can't remember who not Beetle, but it's something like that. The Hand. You know, we get a good montage of just what's been going on with Peter for the past 4 years. I know some people were wondering, like, what's Tombstone doing in this movie? I mean, to be fair, he's doing more than, not Malcolm McDowell. John Malkovich was in Fantastic Four, you know, where his scene didn't even get in the final movie. Like, yeah, sure, Tombstone's doing more than that, but not by much. Scorpion gets a little more to do, but that's not entirely his fault. Because, yeah, the movie is filled with cameos. We obviously know Bruce Banner / the Hulk is in this, and that Peter does fight him at one point. The Punisher, I would not say is a cameo. I'd say the Punisher is a main character. He has a lot to do in this movie. But who does get a cameo? Elena. Yeah, the new Black Widow gets a cameo. Because so the movie has a scene early on where this tank is going to the damage control facility, and it's obviously being controlled by our mysterious person. And Peter goes to Elena and is like, hey, is this like Black Widow mind control? And she's like, no, it's not. And I think the Elena scene overall works really well. Florence Pugh is just so fucking good in these movies. She's so likable. If she's the type of person who wants to do this forever and then just use it as an excuse to, fund her indie movies, I will in no way complain. Just because she's so fucking good in them. And yeah, I did not expect her to have a cameo in here, but she does, and I think it's a good cameo. She shows up like 3 times, all very minor appearances, but hey, they're neat. We get her office is a bathhouse, and so we see Peter in just his underwear and the mask as she has to go into her office. Of course, we catch up with MJ and Ned. As they just graduated, they've now moved in. MJ's looking for a job, but, is struggling by working for the corporation. She doesn't want to sell her soul. And so she's struggling on that front. Meanwhile, we find out Ned is obsessed with Spider-Man. That, he remembers all these times Spider-Man saved them as kids. And now he wants to, try to figure out who Spider-Man is. And we get the scene where they go over to Peter or Ned and MJ's apartment. MJ has a boyfriend, but he only shows up in this one scene. He gets mentioned later on, but he's not even called Paul. He's just the boyfriend. So yeah, for all those people who are expecting Paul, if he's Paul, they never actually say it. But he's Paul, let's be honest. Because yeah, one of the things is at the end of No Way Home, Peter had that note, but he couldn't bring himself to tell MJ, because you know what happens to people who know Spider-Man's secret identity. And only Spider-Man's secret identity. This is almost exclusively a Spider-Man problem, at least in the modern day. But yeah, he decides not to tell her, and of course she doesn't know about it, and this creates some of the conflict when our villain figures out who Peter Parker is, that he's Spider-Man, and that he's in love with MJ. So, many people suspected, but also kind of leaked, but it was also kind of obvious. Our main villain, played by Sadie Sink, is Jean Grey. And her plot is that she's looking for this thing called VMAX, which is being held by damage control. She goes through these different damage control facilities. She steals a tank just with the purpose of trying to find this VMAX stuff. But so far, she's had no luck actually getting it. And to this end, she can hijack anybody. She eventually tries to figure out, Peter Parker's secret identity. How she figures it out, they don't actually explain. It's just like one scene, Peter's messing around with his webs, his webs are out of sync because he's changing. And she's just there. And she's like, I know who you are. I know who MJ is. And I'm going to find out. I think as villains go, she's very good. She does a very good job. I think she can be intimidating. I've seen some people, and I don't entirely disagree, she's too evil. Because at the end of the day, she's Jean Grey. She's one of the heroes, in theory. She's potentially the main star of the new X-Men movie. And so people say they made her too unlikable. And I kinda get it. Because, one of the scenes early on is that as she's switching between people, she literally just throws this old guy in front of a bus. Why? Because she can. Just to fuck with Spider-Man. And then the big scene. So Jean Grey threatens MJ. So Peter goes and races to get to MJ first. Because Jean Grey can only get to like people 33 feet away, Peter like traps her in a helicopter and is like, okay, now I can get to MJ and I'll save her. So he gets there, he finds MJ all alone and is like, hey, I'm here to protect you. He takes her away. They go up to this rooftop. And then MJ is like, oh, I've been having these feelings that something's wrong. We used to know you. She kisses him. He takes off his mask and it's like, oh, true love's kiss saves the day. She gets her memories back. All's well that ends well. But then as she keeps talking, it's clear that's Jean Grey. It's an oh fuck moment. One of the best moments in the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy is the reveal of the Vulture. I think that Vulture reveal is so strong. And this movie is clearly trying to do that. And for the most part, I actually do think they succeed. The reveal that this isn't MJ, but is Sadie Sink's Jean Grey is an oh fuck reveal. And then immediately after revealing that, she throws MJ off the building Gwen Stacy style. And Peter has to jump after to save her. And it's like, oh, fuck. Now, here's the thing. This is an awful move. But at the end of the movie, Peter forgives her. Kind of. Should she? Should he forgive her for this? Because, he just took his precious loved one and mind controlled her, violated her, and then threw her off a building. I'm gonna be the person to say this. Jean Grey technically raped MJ. She literally mind controls her and forces her to do something against her own will, while she has no memory of that is still going against her own will and consent. For all intents and purposes, this is rape. Later on in the movie, MJ will say, Peter will admit to have kissing her, and MJ will say, oh, well, it's not a big deal. I don't remember the kiss. Yes, you don't remember the kiss, but you did basically get date raped. It didn't go any farther than a kiss, but a kiss still has sexual connotation to it. It was still something done against your will. So yeah, if people do not want to forgive Jean Grey for doing this, I would not blame them. I get where they're coming from, because this is something that is super fucked up. And she does stuff like this multiple times in the movie. So yeah, I get that. I get why people would have a problem with that. At the end of the day, these are all fictional characters. No one's actual consent was violated. And it's not like we have real telepaths going around mind controlling people. But it still is that. And based on how the movie ends, I don't think we're ever going to see any repercussions to that. There are other moments, at one point she goes into the Punisher's mind and she's like, oh, I've seen some pretty fucked up things in here. She goes into Bruce Banner's mind and forces him to hurt people. Because that's the thing. All Bruce cares about is that he didn't hurt anybody. And we don't know. We don't get, even after Peter stops Bruce, we still don't know. So after that whole scene, Peter is like, okay, you win. I'm not going to interfere. He goes and he takes MJ to the Punisher and is like, hey, I want you to protect her. I have to go stop, Jean Grey. This is where we actually get the reveal of who Jean Grey is. They hang on it for a moment because, for people who know, it's supposed to be a big surprise. But, we get a little bit of flirting between Peter and MJ, and they genuinely have good chemistry. Peter's working on his little inhibitor thing. Because earlier in the movie, Peter went and saw Bruce and is like, hey, how do you do your Hulk inhibitor? could I make one for, you know, the spider sense? He doesn't obviously say that, but like, could he do something for DNA? And then he brings up the idea of a universal inhibitor, which I do like that the inhibitor looks like Doc Ock's inhibitor from the Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire movies. That's cool. But the universal inhibitor is basically the anti-mutant collars from X-Men. And the fact that Peter is the one who created them. Oh, that's going to have some interesting implications that I wonder if the MCU is actually ever going to delve into. I hope they do, because that's fascinating. And yes, he does use it on Jean Grey. But I don't know how much the MCU cares to dive into that. But it's still interesting regardless. But yeah, Jean Grey eventually goes to Bruce, forces him to take off of his inhibitor, and then has him attack the damage control facility because she's looking for this VMAX thing. Eventually Spider-Man and the Punisher come in, because, you know, while the Punisher is supposed to be guarding MJ, MJ is like, hey, I want you to go protect Spider-Man. So he does, and he immediately gets taken over. And then it's Bruce, you know, as the Hulk can't get through this wall, but the Punisher can use a bunch of explosives to get through. Whatever. The whole fight scene with Peter in the Hulk, it is a good fight scene. You know, it starts off with smart Hulk, but then, you know, once Bruce realizes everything that's going on, he can't control the Hulk anymore, and the Hulk gets out. They have a fight scene. It's a good fight scene. It's kind of short, and it really just kind of like, it ends with Bruce winning, but as he's strangling Peter to death. You know, they could have done the comic thing and have Peter just tell a really funny joke that gets him out of it, but instead he's like, no, Bruce, remember me. Remember Peter. And then Bruce stops, he falls off the building and turns back to normal. Afterwards, Bruce is taken in for psychiatric evaluation. I do think the reason they did that, you know how like the whole reason Hulk's not in Civil War is because he's off on Sakaar? Are they doing the same thing here? Of like, hey, they don't want Hulk in Doomsday, so this is their excuse to get him out of the picture. That's personally what this felt like to me, because at no point do they ever explain that Bruce was being mind controlled. And clearly they're just setting up like the Maestro on Battle World or something like that, or whatever the Hulk version, whatever the Hulk gang is called on Battle World. I don't know, it's been a long time since I've read Secret Wars. But, I kind of, it's like, because in the comics, I guess, according to what I've heard, the Hulk is actually immune to mind control. Whereas this is like the 4th time he's been mind controlled in the MCU. But, you know, we get a cool fight scene out of it. I do worry for Bruce, because, you know, he's clearly just trying to live a normal civilian life. And now that his accommodation has been taken away, he's now put in a much worse place. You know, he's being sent to the Cube or whatever. Whatever the MCU is going to do with that. Yeah, and so the Punisher breaks down the vault door, gets into the Director of Damage Control, and is asking this VMAX thing, and he has no idea. But Peter's able to come in, stop the Punisher, and put the inhibitor chip on Jean Grey, saving the day. Jean Grey gets arrested, and this guy, and like as she's getting arrested, she says, Sarah. And so Peter asks the Director of Damage Control, and he's like, I have no idea who, or he mentions like Sarah was an old colleague of his who recently passed away. Maybe she got some psychic memories off of me, you know, when she tried to take over my mind. So he explains that, and then Peter heads back to go get MJ, and he left behind the note. That is like the, hey, I'm Peter Parker, you don't remember me, but we used to be together. And MJ reads the note and straight up just tells Peter, like, I have no memories. I've tried to remember, but I've got nothing in here. I don't remember you. I don't love you. It's fucking gut-wrenching. There was always a part of me that was kind of hoping we were going to see one of Spider-Man's other love interests before we inevitably go back to MJ. But clearly the movies have no interest in that, and it kind of shows here. But I do think the scene is overall really good. It's tense, Do they undercut it with a joke at the end? Because, you know, MJ doesn't have a phone, she doesn't have a way to get home, and Spider-Man has to, you know, swing her back. Kind of, but not really, because afterwards, MJ invites Peter in and is like, hey, you should tell Ned the truth. They go inside, he meets Ned, and we just get a moment of them, like, sitting on the couch, they're building Legos, and, like, even though they have no memories of Peter, they're still very clearly friends. They get along great. I actually really like the moment. This is where we get the whole MJ, like, oh, well, I don't remember the kiss, so I guess it doesn't matter. Because, yeah, Peter, you know, is up front. Again, it's kind of right. And then afterwards, Peter, you know, makes the connection of like, oh shit, you know, it's kind of like the drone thing in the Far From Home, where it's like, oh, once you got that one piece, the rest of the story doesn't add up. So Peter leaves to go rescue Jean Grey, because he now knows Damage Control is the villain, which, yeah, obviously Damage Control was the villain. It's super fucking obvious the whole movie. Because literally, they were a minor antagonist in No Way Home. Like, No Way Home starts with Peter getting arrested by Damage Control for the death of Mysterio. Like, yeah, they're the government. They're the bad guy. And Damage Control, you know, eventually in the MCU, probably spinning off into whatever the anti-mutant organization is. Also wouldn't surprise me at all. Of course they're going to do something like that. But then we see what's happening with Jean Grey. She's locked in this room, they've got these devices hooked up to her, and they're basically forcing her to use her powers because they want to find a way to copy them so that way they can mind control anybody. And Jean Grey is just asking, where's Sarah? Because we learn Sarah is her sister. And that we get this flashback that, you know, Sarah and her were at a park talking about their powers, and after using them, Sarah gets arrested. And the director of Damage Control doesn't want to, you know, is just like, oh, Sarah, you know, helped me build this machine. And like, he's being very vague about everything. Until we finally get the moment where as she's being subjected to this torture, she looks up and on the air conditioning vent, it's like Ventamax, but it's taped over. So it just says VMAX. Sarah Gray's final message to her sister, because that's where she knows about VMAX. It was just the final thing she saw before she died. She died in that room. And that's a fucking gut punch. Oh my gosh, actually finding out what VMAX was, like, because you think like, oh, maybe it's like Venom or something like that. No, it's just some air conditioner from the moment she died. It's like, oh, fuck. It's a great moment. It hits you right in the gut. And with that, she's able to fully utilize her powers. She does this massive explosion that freezes everybody in like a 10-kilometer radius, large portions of the city. Of course, by this point, Peter's already at the prison. He fights some of the guards. As, you know, he's trying to break in. The Punisher calls him and is like, explains what's happening, and is like, oh, you try to solve it your way, I'll try to solve it mine. Peter goes in, he gets confronted by the Hand. Earlier in the movie, you know how like in Invincible, Cecil will like take a supervillain and be like, hey, you know, sure, they could be a villain, but if we try to redeem them, you know, they could be more useful that way. Early on in the movie, the Damage Control guys like, oh yeah, we were using the Hand as security because they're much more useful as security than they are as villains. And so this is where we find out that, yeah, he's using the Hand to fight Spider-Man because Jean Grey's controlling them. And they find out that Damage Control has been building anti-Spider-Man weapons. And so Peter Parker fights the, Damage Control, the Hand, with the anti-Spider-Man weapons. Ultimately, eventually he's losing. And this is where he finally releases his inhibitor chip and finally fully fights. I haven't really talked about the whole Spider-Man 2 aspect of this, that because of, Peter basically neglecting the Peter part of himself, he's becoming more spider-like. He's literally losing his humanity and becoming more of a monster. He gets organic webbing, his sensories max out. Again, it's an inverse of Spider-Man 2. Whereas in Spider-Man 2, he loses his powers. In this one, his powers get even stronger. And so finally, you get this climactic moment where he embraces that he can be both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. He can do both. With that, his powers get more into tune. He's able to defeat the Hand. He goes in to stop Jean Grey. And Jean Grey is like, oh, I'm stronger than the last time we met. Because previously, she can't get into his mind. But she finally gets into his mind. And we had seen multiple times in the movie. It's like this bedroom with MJ, we see this bedroom with Aunt May sitting in it and talking to Peter about how the world will hurt you. But regardless, you have to do good. And I really like this moment. Because earlier in Jean Grey's flashback, we find out that their mother abandoned them. That Sarah and Jean were abandoned by their mom. And so in this moment, we get Aunt May acting as a mother figure to Jean and sitting her down. And presumably it's the same speech she once gave Peter after she found out about his powers. She now gives to Jean, and it is a fantastic moment. Again, Jean Grey does some horrible stuff in this movie, and for some people, maybe even potentially myself included, it goes too far. But this one moment is so good. I love just Aunt May giving the speech. I know fucking Hat Guy was complaining, oh wow, they're just doing great power comes great responsibility again. Spoiler alert, every Spider-Man story ever told in the last 60 years has just been with great power comes great responsibility. Wow, them reusing the line again? No fucking shit. That's every Spider-Man story. And you know what this reminds me of? There's a point in the comics where Emma Frost reads Peter's mind. And she sees all the horrible shit Peter has gone through and feels bad for him. That's what this reminded me of. Is Jean sees all the horrible shit Peter has fallen into, the people he's lost, and she gets it. And yeah, I really do like the moment where afterwards, Jean is like, I have nobody. And Peter's like, you have me. There is a part of me that kind of wished she had stayed around, because at the end of the movie, she leaves to go to upstate New York, you know, presumably some X-Men bullshit. And there is a part of me that worries we're never going to see her and Peter interact ever again. But I really hope we do. I really hope, because see, Peter Parker does have his friend groups. At the end of the day, the comics have always been a little loosey-goosey. The TV shows have been a little loosey-goosey with it. I mean, this show, you know, basically redid Genki into Ned. They redid MJ into a totally different character. The animated Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man adds Nico Minoru. There's that one Ultimate Spider-Man show that adds like White Tiger and Nova, and I can't remember who the third person is. But you know, these people have played loosey-goosey with Spider-Man's friends. The Human Torch and Iceman was whatever her name was, Flamebird. They were Spider-Man's friends in one of the old animated shows. In the Ultimate Universe, Kitty Pryde was in Spider-Man's friend group. If they want to play a little loosey-goosey and make Jean Grey part of the friend group, Peter, Ned, MJ, and Jean, I would have been fine with that. But no, instead she leaves to go to upstate New York. But no, I really like this moment. That's maybe one of the reasons why, despite all the terrible things Jean does, and they're truly terrible things, I think this final moment is just so well done. That, again, these fictional characters, I am willing to cut a little bit more of a break to. In real life, this would be a whole different story. But these are fictional characters. And so in the end, as they're doing this sequence, we see the Punisher setting up his sniper rifle. He lays it down, he pulls the trigger, and Peter jumps in front of the bullet. He takes the bullet for Jean. He's laying there dying, and Peter's just like, get away, you know, I don't want anybody to get to you. And so with that, the Punisher comes in, takes Peter to the hospital. I saw Hat Guy complain that like he doesn't buy that the Punisher would do this because, you know, based on the shows and whatnot. I do buy that the Punisher will do this. Now, I want to be clear. I have not read Punisher comics. All I know about the character comes from the show, which I think I only saw the first season of the Punisher show. Other things, you know, like Daredevil and whatnot, and then event comics. But from what I remember, well, yes, the Punisher is a fucked up character. He's a murderer, which directly, you know, goes against some of these other characters that Peter hangs out with. There's a part of the Punisher that deep down doesn't want to be a terrible person. Like, the Punisher is a Captain America fan. If Steve Rogers says jump, the Punisher says how high. Because deep down, there's a part of him that wants to be like Captain America, but knows that he's too fucked up to ever actually do that. You know, he's already crossed the line and there's no going back. So him in this moment, you know, he shoots Peter, he realizes he's gone too far, and so he takes Peter to the hospital, stays with him all night to make sure nobody learns his secret identity, helps cover for him as he escapes. I think that makes perfect sense. I'm perfectly fine with that scene. I could be completely misreading the Punisher. Again, I haven't read any Punisher comics, only some event comics, but that's the interpretation I think. I think it works fine. I think Peter and the Punisher's, you know, basically friendship in this movie, overall, I think it works. Yeah, it's a little weird that, you know, the guy who basically has a no-kill rule is, you know, friends with the Punisher, who definitely doesn't. But I think there is a part of it of Peter knows that the Punisher could be good and is trying to get him to be better. And there is a great moment where after, you know, meeting MJ, the Punisher is like, you know, if my family was just there, just out of reach, I would go back to them in a heartbeat. What the hell are you doing? You know, just letting them suffer in silence. It's a good moment. Again, there is a part of Peter that is losing his humanity. That as he's given up on the Peter part to become fully Spider-Man, he's less and less human. And so the Punisher is the logical extreme. Someone who has fully given up on humanity and become this judge, jury, and executioner guy. I think it's a good contrast. Again, I would say the Punisher is not a cameo in this movie. He's a full-on character. I think he does a good job at contrasting Peter, a lot more than like Deadpool would. I know a lot of people like Deadpool and Spider-Man, but there's a part of me that's just like, oh, it's the lol so random. Deadpool's a popular character, Spider-Man's a popular character. Why not have them hang out? And it just doesn't work, and like Peter very clearly hates Deadpool. He probably also very clearly hates the Punisher, but I feel like they have more going on here. And so yeah, the movie ends with Spider-Man. He's able to get out of the hospital because the Punisher wears his mask, and it tells like the people like, hey, look at waving to the crowd, while Peter just is able to walk out like Peter Parker. Nobody knows. And it's a really good moment to end off the movie. Like, genuinely, I think it works really well. We get little moments with Ned and MJ. MJ sitting on the school roof with the Black Dahlia. I've seen speculation, because the technical final scene is Peter is at the bodega, and he sees Ned sitting there. And he does the handshake that we've seen in the first 3 movies. And is Ned remembering? And I like the theory that when Jean Grey took over everybody in that like 10-kilometer radius, we see that Ned and MJ were 2 of the people that got taken over. What if during that moment, she unlocked their memories, or she gave them their memories back? I like that theory. I don't know if that's what they're going to go with. You know, Ned is also magic, so maybe that has something to do with it. But whatever they do, I think it's going to be fine. I do think it's going to be fine. them getting their memories, because Peter and MJ do not get back together in this movie. I know some people really wanted that. They're going to draw it out over another one, but as long as they get back together, that's all I care about. You know, we did One More Day. I don't want them to keep the status quo of One More Day, because One More Day fucking sucks. And it is currently what killed comic book Peter Parker, because everybody I know fucking hates comic book Peter Parker. And One More Day started it. Ever since One More Day, comic book Peter Parker has sucked. And they refuse to undo it. Almost, I think it's been, what, 19 years? But they could. They could just undo it on the drop of a dime. And they refuse to. But yeah. And then the final scene of the movie is Ned's spider tracker app. And it's hinting that, hey, there's a Spider-Man somewheres out there in space. Whether that's Peter going to Battle World in Secret Wars, or maybe Toby or Andrew or Miles, just, you know, so Andrew Garfield already got asked about it, and he was like, I know nothing. Maybe it's Toby, maybe it's Miles. I hope it's, honestly, I'd love all of it, but we'll see. We don't know what Secret Wars is going to be. Secret Wars could be anything. It could be everything. It could also be nothing. But I don't think this is Doomsday. I don't think this is Doomsday. I think this is Secret Wars. And yeah, that's where the movie ends. Overall, I think it's a good movie. I liked it. Is it the best Tom Holland movie? Yes. Because here's the thing about No Way Home. No Way Home is a good movie that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work. It's kind of a mess, but because you've got 3 Spider-Men to work off of, it does a lot of the heavy lifting. No Way Home, I will stand by, is a good movie. But I feel like if we're just talking about Tom Holland's Peter Parker, this is much better at doing Tom Holland's Peter Parker than Homecoming and Far From Home was. I like Homecoming. I defend Far From Home. I know for a lot of people, Far From Home is like the second worst Spider-Man movie. I would not go that far. I still probably would put it like bottom 5, but that's it. Bottom 5. It definitely, it's not my number 1 worst. It's not even my number 2 worst. I think this is, of the Tom Holland movies, this is the best one. It's got its issues. But to be fair, all Spider-Man movies have their issues except for the animated ones. No, the animated ones have issues outside of the movie, specifically with like production and whatnot. That's where they get all their bad stuff out. And yet they somehow still get really good movies out of it. I don't know. This might be top 5, but if it is top 5, it's like number 5. Because the one, I would put Spider-Man 2 above this, the second Tobey one. I would put both the Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse over this one. And maybe this would be number 4. Here's the thing. I have very complicated feelings about the first Tobey movie. Because for as good as it is, every other scene in that movie has become a meme. And I can no longer take the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie series. I just can't. And it's got its dumb, goofy moments. All the Tobey movies do. But I feel like that one's, it's got more than 2, but not as many as 3. Yeah, maybe this would be number 4. Yeah, I think number 4 sounds about right. It's a good Tom Holland movie. Any other thoughts? I liked it. It's doing well in the box office. I would recommend going to see it. I mean, again, Doomsday is coming, and while I doubt you have to see this movie to see Doomsday, like, I don't think Tom Holland is in Doomsday. Except for maybe like a post-credit thing. I don't know, I'm excited for Doomsday, but I'm not like, oh my god, I have to go. You know, I'm seeing Dune first. I do still want to see Doomsday. I don't know, this movie was good. I enjoyed it. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with the X-Men. Again, we seemingly got the casting of Emma Frost and Rogue. And so it's going to be curious to see where we go from there. They did, however, cancel Wonder Man Season 2, which it's the same director, Destin Daniel Craig. Or Destin Daniel Creighton? He's the one who did Wonder Man. He's also the one who did Shang-Chi. It looks like we're not getting another Shang-Chi either, a second one, which we needed a second Shang-Chi. I would have loved a second one. But whatever. Instead, we're getting Sean Levy doing Ghost Rider. I'm actually fine with that. I've seen a lot of people be very mad because, you know, they don't like his movies. Deadpool and Wolverine was fine. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. I feel like a lot of people are very negative on that movie because of a lot of terrible things that were going on in the MCU at the time. It's okay. And then Free Guy, I know Free Guy is just Black Panther for white people, but it's okay. It's okay. I have fun enough with it. But yeah, I hope Ghost Rider is good. I really do. It sucks they fucked up Blade. That sucks. They lost Mahershala Ali. How do you fuck that up? I have no idea, but they did it. So yeah. I think that's it. I think that's all I got. Oh, so it was National Cheesecake Day on Thursday. Thursday? Yeah. And Cheesecake Factory introduced a new cheesecake. It's a brownie, chocolate, Choc-a-Lot explosion. It's got a brownie instead of a graham cracker crust. It's like 1,000 calories a slice, but it's so fucking good. It's one of the best cheesecakes I've ever had. It's so fucking good. If you got a chance, go get it. It was half price on the 30th, and they were so fucking busy, but it was worth it. I loved it. And yeah, I think that's all I got. With that, we got one world left in King of Cards, plus, you know, 2 bosses, and ooh, that second boss. That fucking second boss. Ah, that's gonna suck. So, what's coming up in the near future? I don't know. I'm sure we've got My Adventures with Superman is still going. I'm still having a good time. I beat Splatoon Raiders. We didn't talk about it tonight. Maybe I'm still working through there's a lot of post-game stuff to do in this game. The Splatoon Raiders has a very big post-game. So maybe we'll talk more about that next week. I want to do some Pokemon shiny hunting again. They're finally doing shiny outbreaks for Sword and Shield, or for Scarlet and Violet. It's been almost a year since the last mass outbreak event in Scarlet and Violet, but all of a sudden, like 2 weeks ago, they started them up again. So at some point, we're going to have to go shiny hunting. Do they not have increased shiny odds? Yes. Yes, they do not. But at some point, we'll try to shiny hunt again. I don't know when. Yeah. I can't think of it. I know there's some movies probably coming out next week. I gotta decide if I want to see that fucking one night only, the one where sex is illegal. You know, The Purge, but with sex. I don't know if I want to. I think that's 2 weeks away, but still. I had a chance to see it early. I didn't. Let's see. Oh, no, it does come out on Thursday. Okay, never mind. Maybe I will go see it. Maybe I won't. Yeah, no, we're ending off. Go see Spider-Man. It's very good. I can't think. I'm sure there's something else I have, but I can't think of anything else. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. But we'll be back next week. We'll talk about Splatoon Raiders and all that. Very excited for Superman. And yeah. But until then, I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Till next time, peace.